Hi guys, welcome back. This video has been a long time coming. I do apologize for that. There was quite a bit of footage to get through. This is definitely not the longest video that I've ever produced, but it is the longest amount of time that I have spent working on a video. So that did accumulate a lot of footage that I had to sift through. If you're new here or you don't know what I'm talking about, I did attend a con at the beginning of January. It was my first convention and I want to say a little under a decade. I think the last time I went was in like 2016, 2017, somewhere around there. I've wanted to get back into cosplaying for a very long time. I've even started a couple cosplays and then just kind of tossed them aside when I either hit sort of like a block point or something else came up that I had to take care of and I never got to finish those. But I did cosplay for this invention, again, for the first time in almost a decade. I used to cosplay a bit when I was younger in high school and going into college a little bit, but then unfortunately, as we are all wont to do, as I got older, I just didn't have any time to really enjoy the craft anymore, so unfortunately, it did kind of fall by the wayside. But I did make my very first cosplay in 8 years. For this convention, I cosplayed the character Violet from Neon White. Neon White is a game that I've been trying to get through on stream for the past year. I did finally finish it, and we celebrated by putting this cosplay together. I'm not good at video games to begin with, and I'm really, really bad with FPS games, so I did struggle on this one, but very, very excited to say I did complete it. So the main reason that I wanted to cosplay this character was the mask. Most of the characters in this game are wearing a mask of some sort, but I really wanted like that very cosplay, ultra feminine character to kind of get back into it. I was really, really excited about that. A couple of the elements on here I did just buy outright and put them on the costume instead of making them. For example, the socks were directly from Amazon and I just threw those on. They worked perfectly. The shirt I grabbed from Target. Didn't modify it at all. Ran out of time to, unfortunately. The shoes are also from Amazon, but I did modify those. I have the whole painting process in the video, so you'll see that. And then the jacket I also purchased. However, I did heavily modify that one. Well, I didn't modify it. I took it to my friend Cal, who is an amazing sewer. He's been sewing for as long as I've known him, which is junior high. So that was 17 years ago, I think, we've been friends. So I did bring more of the sewing heavy projects to Cal, and he helped me a lot with those. That's the jacket and the skirt. The skirt he did completely from scratch, and I can't take any credit for it. He did the entire thing by himself. It looks unbelievable. And lastly, the mask was 3D printed by a good friend of mine and her wife. She actually has a YouTube channel as well, if you want to check her out. She does doll customizations and on occasion miniatures, which I personally love the miniature videos and I think she should do more of. But her YouTube channel is Dolly Pop. You can also find her on Instagram as well. She and her wife helped me out by 3D printing the mask for me. I painted on all the details and added the hardware to it that allowed it to actually sit on my face. Anyway, this intro is getting a little bit too long. I really just want to get right into the start of this video. I am going to pop up a couple more times because there were some aspects of the cosplay that I either forgot to talk about or ran out of time and couldn't film because I was true to the cosplayer tradition. I was working on this thing right up until the night before the convention, and I think even a little bit the morning of, so I was cutting it close. Anyway, without further ado, here is how I made the jacket. Hi friends, I'm just gonna do this really quickly because I'm on my way out, but I bought this supposedly extra large sweater off of Amazon. It looks big, but like, let me try it on. I am a size medium at the largest. This fits me pretty well. If anything, I would say it might be bordering on a large, but like, is this not a medium? I would say this is like a medium to a large, but I think if an extra large person were to buy this, they would be very disappointed. Anyway, I did not buy it for the size. I'm gonna be cutting it off right about here because that's where the character's costume ends. But I am not a very good sewer, seamstress. So I'm actually gonna be going over to my friend's house where he's gonna help me kind of chop up and re-sew this hoodie together in the correct pattern. Hopefully it won't be too difficult. Asked for his advice ahead of time and he did say that like it probably would be easier to chop up an existing hoodie rather than going out and purchasing fabric and trying to put it together that way. And he's been sewing since high school. So this is the company, Lily plus size collection. Would not recommend, or if you do purchase from them, I would recommend going a size up because this is definitely not an extra large. But yeah, I'm gonna be heading over to my friend's house now and hopefully we'll get some of this done. I'm very excited. Actually, I forgot to bring it out too, but there's like a big, this is gonna be chopped off the zipper and it's gonna be cut down the middle and then chopped off at a crop. And then there's a big buckle, like a seatbelt buckle that goes right here that I will hopefully be able to pattern correctly so that it like holds the top together. I'll show you when we get there. I forgot to bring it out. Okay, see you in a bit. What do you think? Oh, that's spooky. That's too spooky. Oh no. So the first thing we needed to do was cut out the front of the jacket because the character Violet has a very odd like method of actually attaching the jacket together. There's a big like metal seatbelt buckle right at the chest that kind of holds everything together instead of a zipper, and then it just flares out to either side in kind of an opened up U shape. So that's exactly what we're doing here, marking out where the jacket itself is going to end and then cutting it to leave some room for seam allowance, of course.
There are sharp things in your hair down here. Be careful.
I was just gonna say, it turns out he's doing all the work for me.
Well, I mean, if you want to rip the zipper out, go for it.
Yeah.
Use that. If you want to get going, I have this, but be careful.
And that's when I very graciously offered to help take the zipper out. Most of the hardware on this I got off of Amazon. I just bought everything on Black Friday. So got some pretty decent deals on them. The one I purchased from Amazon though was in the listing, the color that it looked like I wanted was gunmetal because it was kind of a darker silver, whereas the regular silver listing kind of looked like a really bright sterling silver. So I ordered the gunmetal color. And then when it arrived, it ended up being a lot darker than I thought it was, and definitely darker than I needed it to be, seeing as all the other hardware was silver. So I was a bit concerned about the buckle in the center being a little bit too dark. But at this point, we had the basic shape of the jacket done. All we really needed to do was add the seam allowance to everywhere that we were cutting, and then, yeah, I mean, it's just, ooh, although that's a nice shape. I like that.
Yeah, so once we smooth that, I'm gonna have to like, smooth out where the hood attaches in there and then relax that part.
Yeah.
Then and especially with how heavy that buckle is.
It is pretty heavy, yeah.
It's gonna stretch it out a little bit, and it's gonna.
I'm kind of thinking of putting some fashion tape on the back of it. Very cool. And then here we actually took a couple scraps of the fabric that we had cut off of the bottom of the sweater, and we're using them to kind of extend the area where the zipper used to be out just a little bit to give the belt buckle in the center something to grab onto. This was the part where Cal did something really complicated with the hood, and I really don't understand what he did, but it did accomplish a very professional looking jacket. The jacket turned out so good, you guys. I can't wait for you to see it. I'm just turning this on again to say he's going insane.
I'm not going insane.
You're going insane. You're doing the absolute maximum for this thing, and it doesn't need it.
Mitering corners is not a maximum requirement. It is, however, just decent.
What are you doing exactly?
Mitering the corner.
Yeah, I don't know what that means.
I'm also a bad example. Put pins in my mouth. You're not supposed to do that, but you know what?
Oh, I do that all the time.
Yeah, really. So we're gonna go about 1.25 inches because. So because we have a right angle here, and we're gonna hem this.
Oh. Okay.
We want this to. It's not gonna fold in nicely. Otherwise, you've got like. You fold it up and then you got to fold them both the other way, and then you get this big sandwich of like 4, maybe 6 layers of fabric at the corner.
Yeah.
And it makes it bulky and floppy, and it looks kind of bad.
Gotcha.
So what you do is you fold the corner back the other way, and instead, I go this way, we want it to go in. So we have to go 90 degrees away from the other direction rather than just straight 90 degrees across here.
So, just like he said, Cal mitered all the corners. I kind of get what this process is supposed to do. It's supposed to make it so that when you do have an area of fabric that is going to be folded over and over and over again, you kind of want to cut some of that fabric away so that it doesn't bulk up, and it gives it kind of a nice, flat, smooth finish instead of it looking like just really bulky in that one area. Okay, actually, yeah.
Okay, it's behaving.
Yeah, because it needs to flop out like this.
It does kind of need to flop.
So right now as I'm wearing it, I actually still have all the pins in it, so we had to take it off very carefully. But then Cal just sewed everything up. He is an unbelievably talented sewer. The way that he does this so quickly is just absolutely mind-boggling. Oh, wait, now you're recording? God damn it. Okay. If there isn't like a special way that you need to sew them, I can definitely sew them.
I mean, not really. They're kind of self-explanatory.
Yeah. I feel like every time I try and sew hooks and eyes, it turns into a big knotted mess. Yeah, I love the cut on this. That's perfect. Ooh, still gotta attach that. Yes, this is why I go to Cal for. Well, actually, you've already put the thing away. There was a whole thing right there. Yeah.
It actually expands out the back too. There's a whole separate table that folds out from the back.
Yeah, this is why I go to your house for sewing projects.
I love this thing. It's a hand-me-down.
It reminds me of the restorer in Toy Story 2, where he's got all his little knickknacks. Yeah. Okay. I just wanted to say the last thing we need to do is attach the buckle, and we're gonna do it with the hook and eye guys over there, because Cal had a brilliant idea that this is gonna need to go through the wash at some point, and I would not be able to wash it if this buckle was still attached, so.
You would not.
Nope.
You'd have a heck of a time.
Yeah, so he came up with the idea of making it detachable, and that's what we're gonna do. Hand sewing, because you're the best friend in the world.
At least my hand sewing looks decent.
It looks way better than I would have done it. Trust me on that. I'm a little scared of the hooks coming undone, but.
Well, the reason I use those hooks is because they're.
Where's my sleeve?
They have a tension hook in them, tension clip, so they tend not to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I know it's all tangled. That kind of sits pretty nicely.
All right.
What are you looking at? Oh, I see.
There we go. That's why I like these hooks, is because they don't usually come undone.
Yeah. This is gonna bother me just because I'm used to doing this with a jacket,
you can't.
but it's like, no, but that looks so good.
I know the sleeves seem a little bit longer now because they're sitting further down.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's I can comfortably do that
Not
now.
super long, but it's something.
Yeah. They're still super skinny. Yeah, if we have time, I would like to rip the seams, but that's gonna be time dependent.
Pick another day and we can open those up and make them a little bit bigger.
Oh yeah. That looks so good. I'm gonna switch that out to silver because it looks
so kind of dark now.
It looks really dark. But even I don't even think it's gonna need.
It may not.
I'll probably put something there.
If you run it, will.
Yeah.
But.
Well, I mean, because that's gonna be skin, so I'll probably put some fashion tape there just to keep it in place.
Your skin oil and a heat might just bind it
Maybe.
right there.
All right, sick. All right, so that is the jacket complete. I gotta be so perfectly honest, Cal did the majority of the work. I think the only thing I really was there for was just to kind of be a model for the jacket to make sure everything fit correctly and to rip out the zipper. I did see him rip the zipper, that was all me. But like I said in the video, I did order the wrong color of buckle off of Amazon, but I went home and I ordered the correct one. I don't know how easy it's gonna be to compare it since it does kind of still look pretty dark and it's just reflecting my whole setup here, but this is a true silver. It did work a lot better and it matched the rest of the hardware, so really, really happy that I went back and got that. Next part is making the skirt. I returned to Cal's. He helped me out again. This time he did even more work than me. All right, just wanted to really quickly show off the jacket again, now that I'm back in my studio. This is actually the next week after all that footage that you just saw, and I'm actually going back over to Cal's today to work on the skirt, but what do we think? I know it doesn't look like much, but I swear this is near exact to how the character wears hers. This part, it's gonna have kind of a low cut top, so the metal is going to be against my skin, and I got some fashion tape to kind of stick it on there so it doesn't buckle around too much, but this is I'm so psyched about this. This is so perfect. Oh, I'm so excited. But yeah, I'm actually going back over today to work on the skirt. I did change out this buckle. It's kind of hard to tell. This is a true silver now instead of a gunmetal. Yeah, it's hard to tell in this light, but I promise it is. So it'll match the rest of the hardware. But yeah, going back over today to work on the skirt. Hopefully we can get it done in one day. I don't think I'm gonna have enough time today to get the sleeves done. So that might be a last minute thing, just sort of make them a little bit poofier. Yeah. I'll bring you along with me. See you over there. All right, so this was the only piece of clothing that I was wearing that we did make 100% from scratch. I stopped by the fabric store before heading over to Cal's house and I picked up some purple, I believe cotton fabric. I also picked up a pattern from the fabric store that I assumed would be helpful. However, one, I have never picked out a pattern before, so I was very much struggling with trying to figure out which one I needed, and I did end up buying the wrong one because the pattern that I had purchased had very narrow, kind of like accordion style pleats, I think is what they're called. And for the skirt for Violet's costume, I obviously needed much wider pleats in a different style. I don't remember what this style is called, but it's the one that kind of like folds over itself and then folds back and then folds over again, instead of the pattern that I had actually purchased, which kind of just like folds one way over and over and over again on itself. So it took us a while to realize that we were working off of the wrong pattern because Cal didn't know what I was going for and I have trouble speaking up. So what we ended up doing was, after having already cut everything for the previous pattern and pinning it all down, Cal went into his own patterns and actually found one that did have the correct pleat pattern, so we used that one instead. Unfortunately, that resulted in a lot of wasted time, but I'm really glad we got there in the end, because if I had ended up with the incorrect pleat pattern, I would have been pretty bummed about that and probably would have wanted to start the whole project over, which Cal might have killed me for. Who knows?
Okay, so we need this. Cover much of that so you can get it. But we also don't need it to be super fat. It's double folded.
Oh, geez. Yeah, there's a lot of that.
So that's actually what it looks like.
Okay.
So what we can do is slice this
That's
down
yeah,
the
exactly
middle
what I was thinking.
and refold it so that it's finished on both sides, so we can get twice as long and not as fat, so it doesn't argue with the positioning of the skirt.
I could probably do that.
If you want to.
If it makes the process go faster. I think cutting a straight line is something I can definitely do.
Well, because these tend to not cooperate all that much.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
But I'm gonna go right down the middle with that fold there.
Yeah.
And then what I'm gonna do is take these other ones and I'm gonna tri-fold them. So we get the same width, but the top and bottom are both finished.
Yeah. So something else that I picked up while I was at the fabric store was some black bias tape, because Violet does have that little black stripe along the base of her skirt. And I had absolutely no idea how to do that, so I picked up the bias tape kind of hoping that it would help. And unfortunately, I did not realize that I had not picked up enough. However, Cal informed me that bias tape is folded over like 3 times. So what I'm doing here is I'm actually cutting down the center of the bias tape in a straight line to cut it into 2 very long, very skinny pieces instead of 1 very long, very thick piece. So fortunately, we were able to get the desired length and thickness that we wanted by having the initial piece of bias tape cut down the middle and placed end to end. And it actually ended up working out perfectly. I think we only had like 2 to 4 inches of bias tape left over after we had pinned everything down. So here's the little bit of work I did on this skirt. It was my job to cut down the center of the bias tape and to iron it out so that it was all flattened and ready for the skirt. And then here is Cal expertly folding those pleats over and pinning them in place. This just would break my brain, if I'm being perfectly honest. There's so many things that he does that it would take me so much time of just like sitting there and trying to figure out what I should be doing before actually committing to it, and he just knows exactly what to do and goes right for it. It's absolutely astounding. I think at the end here he's sewing a little bit at the top of the pleat so that it kind of holds the pleats together even if it's not pressed. So that way it's not just one big circle of fabric, it has a little bit of definition. And we almost got finished with sewing all the pleats together when...
Oh! You want me to turn on the thing for you?
Where are you going?
Come on, Bubby.
Oh, you want your little cat tree? You okay?
What? What?
Here you go.
Go on. It'll warm up for you. Up your tree.
Lift me.
So helpless.
Yes.
Get your feet on there.
Ooh.
Let's go. It'll get more toasty in a minute. Just sit down.
What do you think?
So spoiled.
He's spoiled.
Yeah. He is pretty well behaved. For wanting to scratch a lot of stuff,
No?
No. You don't need to be on this, sir.
Where you going?
Just if I want to do what you're doing.
Oh, I want lap time.
Mm-hmm. Luckily, there's no keyboard for you to walk on.
Oh my god.
This is what he does while I'm at work. He's like, I want to be in your lap. I want to sit on the laptop. No. I need that.
And Brandywine just hung out with us for a little while. We tried to get him off the desk, but he decided he was most comfortable there. But he did eventually decide that the heating pad on the cat tree was much, much cozier than a cold old desk. So he did make his way back up there.
Oop, there we go.
Here we go. Well, it's a little high now. Oh, but you are gonna hem this still.
Yeah, this is, you've got seam allowance that's gonna bring that down a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think a slightly narrower.
Yeah, it is just sitting way up here, but yeah.
Well, yeah, but we get it. And it'll relax as it's worn too.
Okay, this is perfect.
I'm also like pinching probably more seam allowance than what will actually be used. You know,
Yeah.
that's okay.
It's like right above the knee right now. It's gonna go about there. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So once we get in there and hem it up, it'll be much shorter. Yeah, but see now we're not as worried about like where it was sitting.
Yeah.
So you're like, oh my god, we need a narrower hem. But that's also why I didn't want to hem it too early, because I'm like, well, what if it's not where you like it when we get to that point?
No, I like it. It's perfect. Very cool. Awesome. And which side is the zipper on? From the left side, I think you said?
Yeah, I think it's actually on the left now.
Oh my god. I did a leg workout yesterday, so my legs are like stiff. It's fine. It's just a little tight.
Well, over jeans, yeah.
Yeah.
Alright, well, let's get you in front of a mirror and you can tell me where you hem to actually sit.
Yeah. All the way down at the knees. Here is Cal sewing on that black strip of fabric that I had cut and ironed earlier. He did the pleats first and then the black bias tape second, and there was a reason for it, and I'm trying to remember what it was for. I remember what it was. He wanted to do the pleats first so that we had room to hem them to the correct length before we put the bias tape on, because once we put the bias tape on, then we wouldn't be able to hem it anymore because we would have had to take the black stripe off and reposition it. So that's why we did the skirt first. That's one of those things that I would have never considered. I probably would have sewed the black stripe on first and then had to remove it and hem it because I would have thought it would be easier to sew without the pleats in the way. Really glad we measured that first before sewing it on, and Brandywine hung out with us the whole rest of the night in his cozy little cat tree there. Then Cal just ironed everything for me. I think I was sitting in the corner kind of going through Twitter messages at this point, and then all that was left was the final try on. I don't want to try it on again, I just kind of want to get a final shot of it. It's going. Yeah, oh, that's cute.
Yeah, it kind of flounces out to the side with this down here. Kind of
Yeah.
pops it open a little. It'll
I
also,
love that.
because these are all cotton, and
Actually,
this
it's
has been
supposed to be this way, but yeah.
so, you know, stiffly pressed down, it should hold its pleats a little better.
Yeah.
Even, you know, after being sat on and...
Oh, wait, let me get the jacket.
Oh.
I'll try the whole thing on later, and I'll film it later, but I just wanted to... Yeah, the red shirt's not doing me any favors right now.
No! Yeah.
And I got the socks, just got delivered at home.
And you got the shoes.
And I got the shoes. Oh, this is exciting. That skirt's insane. It looks so good.
Okay.
Good job. Hi guys. Today's gonna be a little bit of a crunch day for this costume. I don't know where you're gonna see this part, but I'm gonna be doing two things at once today. I'm gonna be doing the leather for the belt today, which I have this massive, massive sheet of faux leather that I'm hoping will work. I'm not entirely sure. I have an idea. I have something in my brain, and I'm just gonna test to see if it works. But I also have the mask for the costume. In fact, here we are. I just got this last night. It was 3D printed by a good friend of mine. Obviously, I've got a little patchwork to do right here. And then it's just gonna be sanding and painting for the rest of the day. So I need to throw some Bondo on that and kind of sculpt that out. But what I wanted to do before that, I have this purple faux leather that I'm going to be using for the belt of this character. She does have like black leather belts, but what I want to try and do, because the character is obviously purple themed, violet themed, I wanted to hopefully use this purple faux leather. I got it off Amazon. I didn't know that it was going to be fabric on the other side, so that's something I'm going to have to contend with. But I want to use this faux leather and see if I can dye it black. And then hopefully the combination of the black and the purple is going to give like a black leather with a purple undertone to it. That's kind of what I'm hoping for. Don't mind my desk. That's not your business. I've kind of just pushed everything aside right now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a small strip of this, very, very small. Are. And I'm gonna take some black RIT dye and this absolutely adorable little customized wooden paintbrush and water holder. I'm obsessed with it, that my cousin made for me a couple years ago. Last year? Oh my god, was that only last year? I apologize if the lighting gets screwed up on this. It's early morning that I'm starting this and the sun is shining through on my table here, which of course is just gonna screw everything up. What I want to do, I should have grabbed something to put underneath this. Here we go. This is just to protect my desk. All right, so what I'm gonna do here is I'm just gonna put a teeny drop of dye into the water that I have prepped, because I really just want to sample this and see how it works. See how much dye I'm going to need, basically. But shake well before using. Hang on. Because what RIT dye is it's a fabric dye. I think it's pretty good for synthetic fabrics, which obviously faux leather is a very synthetic fabric. It says to use hot water, but I'm not going to worry about that. Yeah, essentially RIT dye is just a very concentrated dye. So what I want to do here on this strip, I want to dye a teeny portion with just RIT dye, completely undiluted. And then I'm going to pour some in my little water cup here as well and do a little section with the actually diluted dye and see which one turns out better. So I'm just going to go in first with the concentrated dye itself. Just do a teeny tiny section. Ooh, I'm already seeing a challenge. Uh-oh. Okay. Well, I don't know how well you can see that, but the dye is definitely being rejected by the leather. That didn't do anything at all. All right. This might need to soak. I might need to actually soak this in the dye instead of painting it on. I'm going to try again with just a little bit more, see what happens. What I thought was going to happen was that I was going to get a little bit more of like a paintbrush consistency. I was going to be able to brush it on a little better, but RIT dye, you're meant to soak fabrics in it. And I don't know why I thought I was going to be able to do this. Yeah, I'm definitely going to have to soak this in the dye. Okay, I think what I'm going to do instead, so that I still want to test this before I submerge the whole thing in dye and just hope for the best. What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to do a mini dye bath in here and see if it even works. If it'll even like adhere to the leather. And then if it does work, I'll do a big dye bath for the rest of them. So I'm just gonna, boop. Yeah, this is super concentrated dye, so that should be more than enough. And I'm actually going to take this whole strip and dunk it in there, and we'll see what the results are later. Kind of give that a good swish, and we'll just kind of submerge this. This is my favorite part of crafting, is just testing things, seeing what works and what doesn't. Get that all in there. All right, well now that that's all submerged, we'll go ahead and let that sit, and I'm going to switch over to the mask and work on that for a little bit. So, see you in a bit. All right, so I stepped out of my studio for this one and into my dad's amazing workshop. He built this all himself. That's him sort of teaching me how to use the Bondo, because I had actually never heard of it before. It is a 2-part sort of like epoxy resin, but unlike regular pouring and crafting resin, this one was pretty easy to like carve and sculpt once it did cure. It had almost a waxy consistency. And I was able to use a chisel, sandpaper, and sort of like a hand Dremel on it to kind of get the correct shape that I wanted. There were a few faults on the back of the mask as well. So I again just kind of used the Bondo to fill all that in and make sure there were no exposed cracks, just in case any part of the back of the mask was showing under the wig. And then after everything was kind of sculpted to my liking, it was just sanding and sanding and sanding and sanding. There was so much sanding done. And then even after this, there was more sanding done. This was just kind of like the first layer. And then once I was satisfied with the process so far, there was still more sanding to do after this point, but I did go ahead and just prime everything white to get like a good base layer on it and kind of see what faults still needed to be cleaned up. All right, I've returned. I'm like already gonna be late for stream tonight, and I still have to clean up this mess on my desk, so I'm gonna do this quickly. But I have this, and I'm curious to see how much, let's take the whole thing off, how much this has dyed the actual leather. Because if this hasn't dyed at all, I'm in trouble. I do have this little guy. This is from the dye that I just painted right on there. And that's not looking good. That's absolutely nothing. I don't know if you can see that, but yeah. You can kind of see the little section where I dyed it, and that's just not, that looks gross. So that's not gonna work. Hopefully, just realized I'm gonna get this all over my hands. Hang on. Okay, hopefully I got some dye on here. Okay, well the fabric's definitely black. And, that's still pretty purple. Where's my, Yeah, that's like the same color of purple that I had before, unfortunately. Okay, I think I'm gonna leave this in here kind of overnight. And I want to see what like a good long soak does to that. So I'm not giving up on it quite yet, but that is disheartening. The mask has the first layer of primer on it, so that's looking pretty good. Obviously you can tell like where the patchwork is here. I was told that I need to like prime sand to get like a nice smooth finish on it. I think I just got black dye on there. So that's gonna take a few more coats, but we're getting there. We're getting somewhere. I'm really, really excited about it. I've got to go stream, and then after stream I have to work on commissions and then possibly go to a movie. So it's gonna be a busy night. I will get back to this tomorrow, and I will see you all then. All right, goodbye. Hello friends. I'm really not sure how I'm going to be editing this video together. I don't know whether to do it chronologically or kind of what makes the most sense to put together in terms of the costume, like what makes the most sense to put next to each other. But either way, I think this clip is going a little bit towards the end, maybe closer to the middle, we'll see. But I am in a little bit of a jam. I'm at the point right now, the con is this weekend. I'm going on Saturday and today is Monday, so I have almost exactly a week to get everything sort of wrapped up here. I've got the mask back there. It does have a relatively fresh coat of spray paint on it, so I don't really want to move it right now. Oh, and then the other thing, where is it? The other thing is that the purple leather that I was hoping to dye black is still purple. Yeah, that's the dyed color, and that's the original color. So I'm gonna go ahead and call that one a failed experiment. So I think I'm gonna have to go out and buy black leather instead of the purple one for a few reasons, actually. I know that I used the wrong dye. I did a little bit of research last night, which I should have done in the first place. I bought the RIT all-purpose dye, and what I should have bought was the RIT synthetic dye, because obviously this is very synthetic. But my other problem is, and this is why I don't like buying things off Amazon, but the back of this is a white fabric. It's like a felt almost. And this is supposed to be a belt. So the back of the belt being that like white felt color is not really gonna do it for me. And then also, I also have the leather necklace that she's supposed to be wearing, the little heart with the leather strap on it. And I want, now that I have this, I want to go out and see if I can find a leather that matches this so that all the leather on the costume will be matching. So I think for a few reasons, I'm just gonna call the purple leather a lost cause, donate it to a secondhand craft shop, and go find some leather that matches this just to make it a little bit easier on myself. So that's kind of the update on everything right now. Again, waiting for the mask to dry, need to go buy some more leather, but I thought in the meantime I would go ahead and paint the shoes. Now, obviously shoes I think are a very unique cosplay item when you need them because they're really difficult to make, and generally the character is not going to have like a specific kind of shoe, so you're not going to be able to get something that looks exactly like what the character has. So what I've gone and done is I got a white shoe because she has white shoes with purple details. I wanted to make sure it had a heel to it because she's got like very, very long, very exposed legs, and I wanted to be able to have a nice long leg as well. And then my third requirement was just to find a shoe with like a lot of detailing on it that I could kind of paint in and hopefully make it look like it's intentional. Obviously, I'm not going to get the exact same patterns that are on her shoes, but hopefully I can get something that kind of looks factory made and not like it's just been painted on. I'm really going for that like AI art effect where if you don't look too closely, it looks fine, but if you zoom in on the details, it's a real disaster. And then the other thing I wanted to do, because it's got this logo right here that I think is a little unsightly for a cosplay shoe. I got these metal hearts off of Amazon. They're silver. It's got a blue protective cover on it, but this is supposed to be for the clip in her hair. And I kind of want to see if I can grab one of those metal hearts because I didn't read the Amazon listing and I got so many of them. But I kind of want to see if I can take the metal heart and kind of place it over the logo, like so. Paint it purple, of course, and then hopefully that'll kind of cover it up a little bit. So I think the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take two of these hearts, take the little covering off here. They are nice and silver. I'm going to spray paint these with the same primer that I used for the mask. It's a white primer, and then I'm going to sponge on some acrylic paint to hopefully get a nice purple heart that we can just glue to the logo there. So I'm gonna step outside real quick to spray paint those, and then while they're drying, we're gonna work on the shoes. All right, those are spray painted and drying. I also wanted to see while I'm here, I didn't really have an idea for how I was gonna use these for a hair clip, but my thought was, one, that I could put like hot glue all over the top of it and then color the hot glue and it would be like kind of cheap, but it's a hair clip. I don't really care. But my other thought was, since I have so many of these to experiment with, can I color this in with Sharpie and kind of get, because her hair clip is metallic, so I was wondering if I could get kind of the same metallic sheen using Sharpie. So let me just, okay. It's actually staying on better than I thought it would. All right, go off. It's purple and it's still got that little metallic sheen, so it's doing something. The only question is this going to stay after it dries? All right, cool. We have a metallic purple heart. I'm gonna set that off to the side and let it dry, and we will see what that looks like. See if the Sharpie smudges off when I handle it at all. I've got literally, like, this is how many came in one bag, and I got 2 bags. I don't know what I'm gonna do with all these little metal hearts. Always read the product descriptions on Amazon, because you might end up with just an insane amount of metal hearts. But yeah, at least I get to do some experimenting with them. Okay, let's see how these shoes paint. I do have a couple paints here. I have a regular purple acrylic and then this kind of like metallic goldish purple one that my friend gave me because he just wanted to like hand it off. So I'm kind of wanting to try the acrylic first, like paint down the acrylic and then maybe put the gold one over the top of it. I don't really know if it needs it, but it might be cool to have some kind of like gold sparkly details. I don't have a palette to put this on. I think I'm just gonna grab a sketchbook and kind of use that as my paint palette. All right, I've got this black glossy sketchbook that I have torn almost all of the pages out of, so I think that'll work well as a palette. Just something to hold the paint on so I'm not squeezing it directly out of the tube. Ooh, okay. And what I want to do is I just want to kind of trace some of these details here. I don't really have a plan. Maybe this one along the side here, this whole thing in the front, maybe the toe right here. I'm gonna pull up what the character looks like and kind of see. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not gonna look anything like what the actual character looks like, but we're just gonna paint some purple accents onto this. I think I'll start. I definitely want this little toe part painted right here. Oh, I might need a smaller brush. I didn't really bother with getting fabric paint because if you guys know anything about acrylic, if you've worked with it before, it's basically plastic, and if you get it on any type of clothing, it will not come off. So I'm hoping that by intentionally putting it on the shoes, it's gonna go ahead and stay there for a good long time. I am planning on sealing these. There used to be this really awesome, like, waterproofing sealing spray that I remember cosplayers used to swear by when I was a kid. I never got a chance to use it myself, but it was called Frog Juice. And it basically created this, like, rubber shield, this clear rubber shield around the whole area that you sprayed it. So it was really good for, like, waterproofing things and making sure paints kind of stayed where you put them. Here we go. That's one layer. It's definitely kind of patchy, but I want to try and do this in layers so I can kind of eliminate as much streakiness as possible. But yeah, I looked to see if anywhere still sold frog juice, and I couldn't find it anywhere. I found it on Google, so I know it was a thing. I couldn't find it in any sort of like home improvement store because I think its initial purpose was like an outdoor furniture sealer. Couldn't find it on Amazon. The Google search did not come up with any results for like stores where I could buy it. So I don't know if it's still being made. If it is still being made, I don't know where to purchase it. So I'm just gonna have to run out to a hardware store and get some like Gorilla Glue paint sealer. I use Gorilla Glue for many things. It's definitely a brand I trust, so hopefully it'll do well sealing paint. Because I do really want to seal these shoes. I want to make sure that the paint doesn't flake off, first of all, but more importantly, they're white. And I'm going to be going to a convention in January, so it is going to be rainy and muddy. I'm going to try and avoid it as much as possible, but I would like to kind of protect my shoes a little bit by sealing them. Little teeny bit right there, the part I wasn't supposed to. I'm sure that's going to happen a lot. But yeah, okay, it's coming along. It definitely looks streaky. I know it looks streaky, but I can feel it drying, and I think it's gonna dry pretty well. And I think after a couple of layers of this, it'll look like plastic almost, because that's what it is. So I think I'm just gonna paint the rest of this off camera, and I will come back with the finished product to show you guys. Ooh, I almost set it right in my little paint palette. Oh, and then I also have to paint the hearts that are gonna go on the logo. So I will be back to show you that. All right, see you soon. All right, a couple things to show you. First of all, I'm about halfway through painting these. This shoe has one coat on it. You can definitely see very light, very streaky. But this shoe has two coats on it. And it's still streaky in places, but you can definitely see an improvement in the opaqueness. And so far it's not budging. So far as the paint dries, it seems like it's being pretty stable. So I'm not too worried about that. But I wanted to just take a little break about halfway through because my hearts are primed and I want to see if I can get some paint on here and get it to stay. I just did like a spray paint primer on them to get rid of the glossy surface. And yeah, paint sticks pretty well. I think we're gonna have to do a couple coats on this as well. At the very least, as many as I'm putting on the shoes. I'm just getting a little bit of acrylic on my hands. Just gotta remember not to handle the shoes before that dries. There it is. Again, very streaky, but I'm gonna throw a few coats on that and hopefully it'll be nice and smooth. Or at least as smooth as the shoes are gonna get. And then I can place that right on the tongue there. I might do another on the side here, like right here. I don't know yet. Also, I did just grab that by the paint, but it looks like the paint's all dried already. The acrylic paint dries so quickly. You really don't have to worry about it at all. All right, and then the other thing was, I do have my little Sharpied heart here. Oh, that's not coming off at all. Oh, that's really exciting. Okay. Again, still a little streaky, but I have like a nice glossy metallic heart to work with. Where'd my Sharpie go? I want to see if I can put another coat on that. I'm sure I'll find it later. Happy with that though. I think I still want to put like hot glue or something on it just to get that domed effect. But for now, I'm just going to continue with the shoes here. Here we are. 2 little purple hearts to go right on the tongue of the shoe. Awesome. I'm getting very excited about this project so far. It's turning out much better than I thought it would. Okay, last update. I realized I could just take the stitching off the label on the shoes, but I am still going to put the heart there because I think it's a cute idea anyway. But these are done. I think I put 3 coats and then just some like touch up around any spots that needed it. And I think that looks really good. Obviously, I messed up on a few bits, but I don't think anyone's going to be able to tell. No one's even going to be looking at them that hard, to be honest. All I care about is that I have the correct aesthetic of shoe for the character, and I think this works really well. I think this is a very good aesthetic shoe. So I'm just going to take my E6000 here, and I'm going to glue the little purple hearts on. Kind of tempted to, because they're metal, I'm tempted to kind of bend them because obviously the tongue is not going to be sitting flat, but at the same time I kind of want to just put it on there flat and see what happens. Oh, that's right. Oh, they peel off on the back. Wait a minute. I think these are supposed to be like a little magnetic thing that you put between your phone and your phone case, and then the back of your phone becomes magnetic so you can like stick it to a magnet in your car so you can have hands-free driving. I think that's what these initially were for. Shoot, this backing is kind of painted on there. Tweezers go. I've been trying to grow my nails out for this costume since she has not like long nails, but they are like nice manicured purple nails. So I have a dip coat on them right now to just kind of keep them from breaking. It's making it very difficult to manipulate small things. There we go. So does this have like a sticky back to it? Or I think I want to use the E6000 anyway, but I don't want to glue it to a paper backing. There we go. Once I actually got my nail under there, that was not hard to peel off at all, but getting that little corner open was extremely difficult. Kind of want to just stick it on here flat and see how badly it warps the fabric, or if it like lifts up at all. Yeah, so you can kind of tell when it's stuck on there flat, it is kind of peeling up on the sides because obviously the tongue is curving and this is a flat metal piece. I think though, I really think, because the other thing is, wouldn't it be so cool if the tongue like flared out like that? I think I can kind of manage that if I glue this down. If it doesn't work, I can always just pry it off and like paint a heart on there or something. Plus, I have a million of these. I could always redo it and try and like bend the piece if I really need to. From what I understand, the biggest selling point of E6000, it is 6,000, right? I'm not just saying a random number, yeah. Is that it's a really strong adhesive that stays super flexible when it dries, but for my purposes, I don't exactly need this to be flexible. So I'm kind of hoping that's not going to be a disadvantage and it's going to like make it harder for the whole thing to stick. Yeah, here we go. I'm going to leave the tongue out and I'm going to let that sort of adhere, trying to bend the heart just a little bit. Yeah. I'm just gonna let that dry like that. We'll do the other one. And those will be the shoes about done. I'll show them off in another video when they're all completely dry and laced again. Also, I decided not to use the like gold-ish metallic iridescent paint because it was just too gold. And the purple worked out fine. I think the purple looks really, really good. So this is just done with the purple acrylic paint and not the gold metallic one. I do like that paint though. I can't wait to use it somewhere else. That one was a little easier. Something I do genuinely hate about E6000, and I hate any glue that does this. I think a lot of super glues are guilty of this as well. But when it comes in this metal tube and you try and like squeeze a little bit out and then it just doesn't stop no matter what you do because the metal tube is like permanently forcing it out until it reaches an area. Like, look, I'm not squeezing it anymore and it's still just flowing out because the tube doesn't allow for it to get like sucked back in. Anyway, I just find that annoying. All right, we are all good to go on those. I'm just gonna let them dry probably overnight. Make sure the glue is really on there. And I'm gonna move on to the next project. I think, because it's a little too late today, I think I'm gonna have to go out tomorrow and get the leather. And what else do I have to do? I got this cute little notebook for the new year. I'm gonna make sure I write down all my to-do lists in it. Oh, I have to cut the wig still, and then I have to paint the mask as well. I don't think I'm gonna do that tonight just because I have some stuff that I need to get done, but that, well, who knows? I might come back later tonight and do that. But we're getting there. We're getting there. The main parts of the costume are finished. The only like main component that I'm missing is the belt because again, this leather did not work out. So I'm gonna go out tomorrow and see if I can buy some black leather for the belt. And I'll update you guys then, okay? See you later. All right, well today is the 3rd of January. It is Wednesday, the con is on Saturday, and I think at this point, the costume is in pieces, and I just need to assemble it. I do need to change my nail color. I got dip nails to kind of, one for the holiday season, but also to kind of strengthen my nails and grow them out a little bit for the convention. So I need to make an appointment to get these taken off and then done in purple. My studio is a disaster. Oh my god, this is probably, if not the worst it's ever been, it's definitely closest to the worst it's ever been. I have a couch over here off screen that is holding just a multitude of crafting materials. There's this box on the floor, which actually this was the box that my new Copic markers came in. I got the Copic crate like mystery kit and that's the box that it came in, but I've kind of been using it just to store like my cosplay bits and bobs that I still need to get around to. I've got so many materials on my desk. It's like usually I try and keep it off to one side so that it's not in my area, but it's leaking over into my area at this point. Yeah, it's a disaster. But I did get the mask all finished. And I do apologize. I realized after I finished painting this that I don't think I filmed a single second of me actually painting the mask. I was just too anxious to like get it done. And also doing this kind of paint work where you have to like be really, really precise with the edges is one of my favorite like Zen activities to do. So I did just sort of sit down one day and decide to go for it. I still need to get the back. This I think is all going to be felt lined or as much as I can. I just need to paint the actual backs of the ears here just in case you can see them behind the wig. But I did finish this on my Twitch live stream last night. I'm going to see if I can grab the recording from that and kind of maybe do a little bit of a speed through just so you guys can see what I actually did. This was an extremely tedious process, but I do think it resulted in like a really crisp, really clean, no brushstrokes kind of design. Basically what I did is I spray painted the entire thing white. I got 2 cans of spray paint. One was just a white primer, and then this one was a paint and primer. So that white is on there. I am still going to seal it, but I need to seal it outside for obvious reasons, and it's kind of raining on and off today, so this is probably gonna have to be a last minute project. Also, I want to wait till I make sure I can get this 100% like strapped on and ready to go before I seal it, just in case I screw up the painting at all, so that I don't have to take the sealing off to fix the painting. And then what I did once the white was on is I actually took masking tape and cut out just section by section and very, very carefully went along all the areas that I did not want to be purple. You can see, I don't know if you can see that very well, but the purple parts are actually kind of raised ever so slightly. So it was relatively easy to get like a good outline of where everything was supposed to go because I just followed the raised parts. But definitely like getting around the eye area here and taping that in was extremely tedious. But I do think it resulted in a really crisp, really flawless application of the paint. There are still a couple bits on the mask that I'm a little stressed about. This whole eye bit right here, if you guys remember, there was a flaw in the original 3D print. There was a huge hole right here. So this whole area had to be like re-sculpted from Bondo. And then if you look close, you can really clearly see where the three parts of the mask were connected. There's a line right there. And then you can see on this ear here, there's another line right there. I really tried to glue those together and sand it down just within an inch of its life. I tried so hard to get that line to go away. And I think for the most part, definitely when you look at it from a distance, it's not that bad. I think it's just an up close thing that because I'm staring at it constantly, it's just all that I can see. It's one of those things where if you look at it too much, then all you're gonna notice are the flaws. So yeah, mask is done. I've also got the shoes done. These also need to be sealed, but I think the paint turned out great. I think the little hearts on the tongue of the shoe turned out absolutely awesome. Just need to seal these so that I can hopefully wear them again and again without getting them absolutely nasty, filthy dirty. And then I already threw the leather out, but I'm pretty sure I filmed a little clip where I showed you guys that the leather dyeing did not work. I used all-purpose RIT dye when I should have used synthetic RIT dye. That's okay. I love dyeing things black, so I'm gonna use this eventually. But I did go out and purchase some black faux leather. This is actually a strip. I've already started. This is a discarded strip of material. But I'm gonna cut out the faux leather into strips like this. I still need to measure to see if this is gonna be like the right thickness. But basically what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut out the strips and then glue them back to back so that I have something that looks somewhat like a belt, and then I just need to like glue them together to make one really, really long strip that can wrap around my waist twice, because that is what her belt looks like. So yeah, that's gonna be my project for today, is working on the belt. I think this is the last thing that really needs to be assembled aside from putting attachments on the mask so that I can actually wear it. But yeah, this is the last thing that needs to be actually assembled. And then I just have to put the whole costume together and see what I'm missing. So this is going to be my project for today. I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to film this because the fabric does take up a lot of space and I need a good straight line for actually cutting it. So I think maybe I'll cut the strips out off camera and then I'll glue it all together and assemble it all together on camera so that you guys can kind of see what my thought process is. This might even be like the belts are really skinny, so I might even need like half of this strip, and then there's like 2 layers of the belt, so it's like really, really skinny, but then there's a second layer underneath it. So we'll see. I'll go ahead and cut these out and I will come back and probably narrate just a little bit of a speed through of gluing all the belts together and putting the hardware on. Okay? See you in a bit. So I started off with the belts by doing exactly what I had said, just trying to glue them together so that both the fabric sides were kind of sticking together. And if you've ever worked with faux leather before, I think you probably know that this isn't going to turn out well. It did start off pretty decently. It was kind of taking on the shape that I wanted it to. It was looking sort of correct with maybe just a few adjustments needed at the end. And then as the strip got longer and longer and I put more and more of this damn E6000 glue, it was the strongest adhesive that I had, and I didn't have time to go get more, so I was just using it for everything. But as I was continuing on, I was sort of noticing that the glue was buckling a little bit. The fabric just wasn't allowing for it to be flexible at all. And so not only did the glue just not want to stick the 2 pieces of fabric together, it was also just creating these like really, really unsightly wrinkles. And then there was the point where I had to glue the two seams of the belt together where it just did not, there was absolutely nothing I could do to save it. And I kind of gave up at that point. Here, let me cut in here and kind of show you. So I do still have the failed attempt belt. I did end up gluing the whole thing, but I'm just gonna cut out the rest of the footage. And it doesn't look good. It really just kind of looks nasty, if we're being honest. Unfortunately, this is garbage now because after I gave it some time to cure, the glue did stick together. So it is indestructible. It just doesn't look great. Look how thin that is. This is kind of the best that I could do to glue the seam together. It clearly didn't work. That was like trying to join the two belts together, and yeah, it just, no, it didn't turn out well. It smells too. I don't know why it smells that bad, but I did thankfully come up with a different solution last minute. So my last minute solution here was actually to go out to Goodwill and get some real belts. I was planning on just getting as many belts as I could find that kind of had the same width and thickness to them so that I could glue them together and hopefully just wrap the black faux leather around them to create this somewhat uniform belt. And thank God that I chose the Goodwill that I did to go to, because they had an entire section where a store had clearly just bought too much stock or had gone out of business or something, because there was a whole section of just belts, just all the exact same belts in different colors. I bought 4 of the longest belts that I could, the extra long ones, and I figured that would be enough. I tried gluing them together at first, and then very quickly ran out of glue because you can see how much of it I wasted in the previous part. But fortunately, I actually found that sewing the faux leather to the belts was way faster and much easier and looked better and just all around better than trying to glue the fabric to the belts. I don't know why I was so obsessed with this glue. And that is, unfortunately, all of the footage that I have to show you. That last clip of sewing the belts together, that was taken the Thursday before the con, I believe, and the convention was on Saturday. I did still have quite a bit to do. I still had to put the entire headgear of the mask together. I still had to cut and style the wig, and I needed to seal everything that I had painted so that it didn't get ruined in the rainy January weather. But I do have good news for you. I have the full cosplay, and I'm going to show you all the little bits and bobs and tell you what I did to achieve each piece. So the first 2 components you've already seen. I have the jacket. It's already been worn. It's already been through the wash. That's why the buckle is no longer on it. But thank God that Cal had the idea to make the buckle removable, because that was such a lifesaver, just being able to throw this in the washing machine after wearing it out at the convention all day. I did want to show you just a close-up here. Look at that's one of the corners. That's one of the corners that Cal sewed. One of the ones that he did the mitering on, I believe. And look at how crisp and clean that is. He just did such an amazing job on the jacket and the skirt as well. Speaking of which, that is the next clothing item that I have, and Cal did warn me this would happen. I do not know fabrics that well. I was not entirely sure which fabric I should pick out, so I kind of just picked out the cheapest purple fabric I could find, and Cal said it might wrinkle, and lo and behold, it certainly does. That is a very wrinkly skirt. You can almost not even see the pleats anymore. Yeah. I can re-iron this and it'll go back to the sort of pleated look that it had before, but honestly I think I might get a better material and go back to Cal and beg him to redo it for me. But this worked out pretty well too. And the quality of this is just so professional. It looked absolutely beautiful on the day of the convention. I do have pictures that I will show you at the end. Next up, I have the infamous belts, and these actually worth the full night of sleep that I lost working on these. I stayed up till like 4:30 in the morning just working on these belts before I went to bed, and then I had to wake up at 8 a.m. the next day to go to a nail appointment. So you can see why there was no footage filmed after these belts were made. But look at these. Look how nice that looks. I was so proud of myself for these. These are the ones that I just sewed the faux fabric to. You can kind of see there's a couple seams where I stitched everything together, but I think this turned out so cool. You can definitely see on the back the stitching is not that great. However, it looked amazing on the actual character. I think it just, I'm so proud of these belts. I unfortunately will probably have to redo them if I ever cosplay this character again, or I should say when I cosplay this character again, because I'm definitely going to, because they ended up being too thick for the hardware. I don't know if you can tell really, but they're actually overlapping, and this hardware does not move. It does not move at all. I had the hardest time getting in and out of this thing simply because the hardware does not move to where I need it to. And then she does have these little like plates in her design, which I wasn't entirely sure what they were supposed to be aside from just decorative. So what I did is I bought the metal plates off of Amazon and I literally screwed them directly into the belt. And then I did cut off the screws on the other side. And then you can see on the back, I just glued on some more of the faux leather so that the cut off bits of screw were not poking me in the side. But yeah, very, very pleased with how those turned out. Much, much better than this thing, whatever the heck that is. I did want to show real quick, where is it? Something I unfortunately did not get around to finishing was the heart hair clip. What I did manage to do is again, use the E6000 and kind of get a little bit of a domed effect on there, but it didn't turn out the way I wanted it to. I really wanted like a very raised, nice looking hair clip, and that it just kind of looks flat. So I think what I'm gonna do for the next time I wear this cosplay is I'm going to do the same technique with the metal heart and the Sharpie, but I'm gonna see if I can use like a doming resin or maybe a gel nail polish, because I know they're meant to dome like that, and see if I can't do something a little bit better than that. I didn't show any footage of me styling the wig, and that's because I barely styled it at all. The only thing that I did was I cut her bangs because Violet actually has micro bangs. So those are very, very short. These are actually longer than they're supposed to be. And then I trimmed it to be about jaw length because that's where Violet wears her hair. But unfortunately, I did not have time to do any sort of styling whatsoever. So it was kind of a suggestion of the wig. I think I'm being way too hard on myself, to be honest. It was a good cosplay. Despite all the flaws that it had, I think it came together well, and I did have quite a few people recognize me, which was very exciting. Two more things. The shoes, very, very proud of these. They held up all day except for one tiny problem. The insides of the shoes would scrape together as I walked, and it unfortunately got paint all over parts that I did not want it to. So outsides look good, insides not so much, unfortunately. But I'm actually surprised with how well these held up. I think I just need to clean them and maybe redo the paint. And I think my problem was I sealed these the morning before going to the convention, so I don't think they were completely dry when I put them on. So repaint, seal well in advance is what I've learned with these. And then the last thing is, of course, the mask. I don't know if you guys have noticed her, but she is hanging on my wall right over here. I decided to put her there because it's really just like a piece of art. I absolutely love how she turned out, and she looks so, so cool on the wall. But let me get her down to kind of show you what I did with the inside. All right, so first things first, I did break her. I literally did so good all day. I was holding her close to me when I wasn't wearing her so that her ears didn't get caught on anything. I was like really, really making sure to be very, very careful with her. And then I decided to go to the bathroom, and I hung her up on the like peg inside the bathroom stall door, and she balanced there perfectly. It did not seem like she was going to fall, but then the person in the stall next to me left and slammed their door, which of course caused her to fall off and land face first on the ground, which caused the ears to separate, and then this tiny, tiny little crack right there, which unfortunately just cracked right through the ears. As you can see, the glue still held it together. I haven't re-glued it since then. It did hold for the rest of the convention. There is just a crack in the paint there. So I think what I'm gonna have to do with her is I'm gonna have to strip the paint, re-glue her, this time with super glue instead of the E6000, because I also noticed since the E6000 was so flexible and the ears are so fragile, they were bending back and forth a little, which caused a little bit of a crack in just the paint. So I'm gonna take this apart, re-glue it, repaint it, and it'll be ready for the next convention. But I wanted to show you what I did on the inside. So as you can see, the eyes are black now instead of hollow, and I did just cut out a couple squares of a translucent black fabric. I did 2 layers and threw them in there. And as you can see here, I could very easily see out of them. But when I hold it up to my face, you cannot see into them. So that worked absolutely perfectly. Was super, super happy with that. I also felt lined the sides here so that I wouldn't have the plastic up against my face. I would have just a little bit of comfort there. And then I have these bits of Velcro that are actually screwed into the mask. And what I did so that I could easily take the mask on and off is I put together this sort of headband thing. It went over my head like so, with this kind of sitting right at the top, and it was very easily covered by the micro bangs when I wasn't wearing the mask. And I have a ponytail in right now, but these bits at the bottom would actually stretch all the way under here so that it would grab the bottom portion of the mask. And I actually figured out the night before that I didn't even need the bottom pieces. I could actually just attach the mask to the Velcro pieces at the top and it would stay on. I'm just holding the harness on right now since I have a ponytail and it's not wrapped all the way around my head, but it does stay there like pretty decently. I have to actually work to pry it off. So that worked really, really well. And I think next time I'm going to keep the Velcro on the top here, but I'm going to do a different style headband where it's just all Velcro along the top so that it's a really sturdy hold on the top and just not worry about these little bottom pieces. So yeah, that's the mask. That's the mask. Again, 3D printed by my very good friend Dolly Pop. Check out her channel if you have time. And last but not least, I have some pictures for you. I'm just gonna scooch over to the side a bit here so that you can see them right here. But there's some pictures of my cosplay. This was stressful. I'm not gonna lie. I was very, very stressed for about a month straight trying to put this together. But that's what cosplay is all about. You've got this great idea for a costume, you think you're fine, and then a month before the convention you realize, oh my god, I haven't done anything for this. You stress for 30 days straight, you throw the costume together last minute, and then you enjoy the con. That's the cosplay experience. I unfortunately did crack the mask before the pictures, so I didn't get a lot of them because I was a little depressed that I had broken the mask. But I did it, and I'm very proud of myself for doing it. I made a cosplay. And I went to a convention for the first time in a little under a decade, and I'm really proud of myself for that. I want to do this some more, maybe not quite so soon. I think I'll spend some time fixing up Violet, and then I'll take her out for a couple more conventions before I decide to tackle a different costume. But if you guys like this, let me know, and maybe I'll film another one. Anyway, thanks for your patience for this video. I know I've been promising it for a while, and thank you guys for watching till the end. If you want to follow me outside of YouTube, you can follow me over on Instagram. I try to post there at least twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week. Mostly art, but I will be posting my cosplay photos there as well. I'm also trying to be a little bit more active on TikTok as well if you want to see some of my process videos. I didn't really get any good footage that I can use of this video for TikTok, so it's almost exclusively just art stuff. And if you want to catch me live, I do also have a Twitch. Like I said earlier, I was streaming the Neon White game for a little while over there. We mostly do art with a few games peppered in. And if you want to support me in the absolute best way possible and get early access to all of my content, you can find me over on Patreon. You can support me there for as little as $1 a month and get exclusive content for as little as $3 a month. And last but not least, make sure you subscribe to this channel so you can find your way back here for the next video. I have absolutely no idea what or when that will be, but I promise it will be soon. All right? I love you all. Bye!